And what is the question that we are going to answer? What role does time play in Milton's sonnet? You remember the sonnet? I think it is the first sonnet that you have read. Okay? Now, we are going to answer this question. Yeah? Have you written down the question? What role does time play in Milton's sonnet? So, what are the key words? Time, Milton's sonnet. Okay. So, time's role is what we are going to look at. Now, what are the relevant ideas? What are the ideas from the poem which are relevant to our answer? Number one, the poet identifies the time with a thief. So, he steals your ears. Time is a thief. And how does the time move? You must say move. M-O-V-E-M-E-N-T. Movement. You must not confuse it with M-O-M-E-N-T. M-O-M-E-N-T is moment, right? M-O-V-E-M-E-N-T is movement. It's a longer vowel, okay? Moment, movement. How does the time move? It moves swiftly because it has wings. It flies, okay? Now, there are some other ideas which are equally relevant. Remember, we are only collecting ideas to answer the question in 15 words. Now, there are some more ideas which are equally relevant. Time leads me, he says. Milton says, time leads me. And inward ripeness, that is mental maturity, emotional, spiritual growth or maturity, inward ripeness. If I have grace to use it, so it refers to time here. So, these are the ideas that we have collected to make use of in our answer. But remember, our answer cannot exceed 15 words. Well, I have tried my best, and I have here 4 alternatives. Okay, look at the first alternative. It has 18 words, right? Now, do write down the answer. Yeah, Milton realizes that his physical and inward ripeness will match only when he uses the time with dignity. So, how do we understand grace in this context? Milton says, if I have the grace to use it, so. Here in this context, grace must be understood as dignity. Okay? So, what is our answer? First answer, which has 18 words. Milton realizes that his physical and inward ripeness will match only when he uses the time with dignity. Remember, whenever you use the words from a text, a prose text, that is a non-detailed story or a prose piece from your prose collections or a poem from your poetry text, do remember to put these words in quotes like this. Okay, inward happiness is in quotes because it's a phrase from the poem. Now, there are only 18 words here. What I would like you to do is pick up the list of ideas that we have noted down and compare them, compare all the ideas with this answer. See if we have got all the words, all the ideas, I am sorry, in this answer. Okay? Now, look at the second alternative. Using time with grace determines man's inward ripeness, as Milton observes in his sonnet. Here you have only 15 words. The meaning does not change. Okay, in all these alternatives, I am giving you 4 alternatives, but all these 4 alternatives convey the same meaning using the list of ideas that we have prepared. Okay, so compare each one of these alternatives with the list of ideas that we have already prepared. Okay, have you noted the second one down? Using time with grace determines man's inward ripeness, as Milton observes in his sonnet. Now let's go to the third one. Time, comma, punctuation is very, very important. Time used with dignity leads to inward ripeness that matches man's age. Milton's sonnet gives this message. Here we have 18 words. Time used with dignity. When you learn complex sentences, you must make an effort and learn these complex sentences. When you learn complex sentences, it will be easy for you to pack a lot of information into a single sentence. You don't need to use many words, long sentences, you don't need to do any of these things. All that you need to do is learn to use complex sentences which are as brief as this example here. Time used with dignity leads to inward ripeness that matches man's age. Okay? Milton's sonnet gives this message. Now we have a fourth alternative. Milton says that man's spiritual and physical maturity will match if he uses time with dignity. There are only 17 words here, right? So have you noted this down? Milton says that man's spiritual and physical maturity will match if he uses time with dignity. Okay. Now note these connections. He refers to man. Okay, right. Now let us look at a 50-word answer. Yeah, we have just looked at a 15-word answer where every word is extremely important, and we are going to look at a 50-word answer. I have chosen a very tricky question. Okay, now look at this. Why did the solicitor ring up Arthur, and what did Arthur say? Well, have you read the question carefully? Why did the solicitor ring up Arthur, and what did Arthur say? How many parts are there in this question? 2. This question has 2 parts. So what will you do? You will answer both the parts and connect them to. Now look at this 50-word answer. The solicitor rang up Arthur and asked him to take a divorce case. Arthur had not met him before. Met him, that is the solicitor. The solicitor rang up Arthur and asked him to take a divorce case. Arthur had not met him before. So he told the solicitor that he wanted to see the client before taking any decision. And how many words have we got? Only 35. And what is the word limit? 50, right? So we can use 15 more words, and in these 15 words we can give additional information which is relevant. Okay, so this is what we can do. It is only later that the reader comes to know that Eve had asked the solicitor to contact Arthur. Okay, this is additional information in these 15 words. What have you? You have additional information which is relevant. Okay, in fact, this answer from which we have got in 35 words does answer the question, but the answer will be complete when we add this additional information. It is only later that the reader comes to know that Eve had asked the solicitor to contact Arthur. So you need to be very, very focused, very alert. Yeah, if you think that you have answered the question in only 35 words or 40 words, you may rethink, is there anything else that I can say? Is there anything more that I can include here? Because I have got 10 more words which I can use. If I can give more information which is equally relevant, the answer would be complete. The ideas will be fully developed. All right. Now, this is the way we handle questions in the examination. Okay. Now, let us look at the assessment criteria that the examiner uses. Okay. For this purpose, we are going to look at the answer for another question. Okay. Now, look at this question. How is a poet different from a scientist? According to Edgar Allan Poe. Yeah, Sonnet to Science. Yeah, that's a poem by Edgar Allan Poe. And what is the question? How is a poet different from a scientist according to Poe? And in your answer, what is the examiner going to look for, or what will the examiner assess? He will assess how the candidate introduces, develops, connects and concludes the differences, because you are going to discuss the differences between a scientist and a poet. Okay? So, the examiner will look for how you have introduced, how you have developed, how you have connected and how you have concluded the differences. Okay. In your answer, there are going to be 3 paragraphs. In your first paragraph, you will have orientation, that is what you are going to talk about, what you generally call an introduction. But I prefer the word orientation to introduction, because orient means directing something. Okay, your orientation will direct the examiner towards what you are going to say in the answer. So, that is paragraph 1, and paragraph 2 will be the differences between a poet and a scientist, and the last paragraph, the third one, will be conclusion. Okay, this is your orientation. This is only one possibility. Okay, there are so many ways of answering the question, and we are going to discuss only one possibility here. What is important is you should learn that every answer should begin with an orientation, and only then can you develop the answer, and only then can you conclude it. So, this is how you can begin your answer. This is how your orientation could look like. Well, Poe's sonnet. We are not saying Edgar Allan Poe, because it's 2 extra words, Edgar and Allan. We can do without them. Okay. Another thing is, we do not have to write the American poet Edgar Allan Poe, a great poet Edgar Allan Poe. All these are frills we can do away with. So, Poe's sonnet to science sums up the differences between the poet who lives in an imaginary world and the scientist who studies the real world. So, this is how you can give the first part of the answer. Poe's sonnet to science sums up the differences between the poet who lives in an imaginary world and the scientist who studies the real world. So, this is how you will begin your answer. Now, what are the differences? The scientist peers at everything to understand its physical nature. He aims at changing the world. To the poet, nature is a source of beauty and joy. He seeks a treasure in the jeweled skies. The paragraph continues. In contrast, the scientist would try to resolve the mysteries of the sky. He believes in unearthing facts about trees, grass and the woods, while the poet enjoys dreaming beneath a tamarind tree. And this is your conclusion. In other words, the poet appreciates the mystery associated with nature, while the scientist believes in resolving it. It means the mystery associated with nature. We will quickly go back to the orientation. Poet's sonnet to science sums up the differences between the poet who lives in an imaginary world and the scientist who studies the real world. The scientist peers at everything to understand its physical nature. He aims at changing the world. To the poet, nature is a source of beauty and joy. He seeks a treasure in the jeweled skies. In contrast, the scientist would try to resolve the mysteries of the sky. He believes in unearthing facts about trees, grass and the woods, while the poet enjoys dreaming beneath a tamarind tree. In other words, the poet appreciates the mystery associated with nature, while the scientist believes in resolving it. So, this is how every answer has to have an introduction, that is orientation, the body of the text, and finally the conclusion. Okay? And this is very important. Now, have you understood? We have not given too many words, we have not given any introduction to the poet. All that we have done is answered the question. We hit the nail on the head. You hit it anywhere else, the nail only bends. What should you do? You have to hit the nail on its head, right. Now, I am going to give you some do's that you will remember when you answer questions in any examination. Do's. Okay. Number 1, write what is most relevant. Number 2, connect ideas with a clear focus. And finally, remember to introduce and then conclude. Okay. And do not give lists of ideas. Right, orient the examiner towards what you are going to say, develop the ideas, then conclude the ideas. The focus has to be very, very clear. Now, let us look at don'ts, what you should never do in any examination. Addressing the examiner. Many people, many candidates, I mustn't say people, many candidates, especially when they say describe an experiment or describe a procedure or a process, or sometimes even while narrating incidents, what do? You will see that Arthur will meet Eve again. You will know that Eve has asked the solicitor to contact Arthur. This is wrong. Who is this you? When you are the candidate and you are writing this, you will see this, you will know that plant the tree in the garden, plant many trees, all these things are instructions. Okay. So, you should remember you cannot instruct the examiner. This you refers to the examiner. So, please remember not to say you in the examination. Okay. Then, including the writer's biographical details. Don't write about Milton or Poe or whoever the writer is. You will only be wasting your time and filling the space on the page. Don't do that. That is irrelevant. And finally, giving irrelevant details. Do not include any irrelevant details. These are the things that you are going to remember. If you would like to if you would like me to answer any questions, please do ask them now. Okay. Right. Do you remember what you should do and what you should not do? Especially this, you should remember, do not use the word you in the examination. Remember the sentence that we have used earlier in our answer to a question on Arthur and Eve. It is only later that the reader comes to know that Eve has asked the solicitor to contact Arthur. We do not say it is only later that you will know. We don't ever say that. Suppose you are describing the experiment, some experiment to do with photosynthesis. You cannot say take a beaker. You cannot instruct an examiner to take a beaker. Okay. So, when you read a textbook, you must remember the writer is addressing a reader, the writer is addressing a student. In the examination, you are addressing your examiner. So, you need to be very, very clear about the role that you are going to play. Your responsibility is to present your awareness, remembering your role as a candidate and remember the role of the examiner as an assessor. Okay. So, these are the things that you will remember. You will write what is most relevant, you will connect all the ideas with a clear focus, and then you will introduce and conclude each answer of yours. And remember, we have also said that we should read the instructions with an open mind, and we should also understand all the questions, all the parts of the questions, and then answer accordingly. All the best, right? All the best. Take an examination, you will definitely do well, right?